2, 3.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for joining us. We are here today to talk about goal setting, and Dr. Jessica Brown is going to be the presenter for us this morning. I will introduce Dr. Jessica real quick. She's an organizational and leadership development consultant and coach with extensive experience designing and delivering solutions that align with an organization's vision and mission. She helps companies build systems for sustainable excellence. As a coach, she supports leaders in developing skills like emotional intelligence, delegation, feedback, and conflict resolution. As a consultant, she creates impactful programs in leadership development, change management, and team building, offering insights and best practices that drive results. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today. We're going to talk about something that I think we've all, had and tried at one point and do throughout, right? We all have New Year's resolutions even. So goal setting. And since we have a good sized group today, we can make this a little more discussion. We'll go through some of the presentation, but overall, being able to discuss where really you're all at in your goal setting, what would be most impactful to talk about with your goal setting. So hopefully whenever possible, I know I'm going to try not to be talking as much and that we can all have a conversation with this, but really we're going to go over the quick purpose of goal setting. Think about really what, after we've all done goal setting, what the hiccups have been, what has slowed us down, what's prevented us from really doing and achieving some of the goals that we wanted to. We're going to talk about the OKR methodology. There's lots of methodologies for goal setting, for organizational strategic planning. This is one that's very popularized recently, but has a long history and is probably one of the more simpler ones to understand and think about and use both personally, professionally, and for your organization. So how can we use things like OKRs, objectives, and key results in our personal and professional life? And how can we apply those to help our organization thrive and move forward? So why do we really do goal setting, right? To get from here to there, whatever here is, whatever there is. So tell me about where each of you are in your organizations or in your goal setting that's most valuable to talk about today, why you're here, why you thought this would be applicable. And Jody, I'm going to start with you because I know you have already something up your sleeve, as mentioned.
We are setting goals for FY26 the past few weeks, and actually I have to have them done by Friday. Things are in change and flux. We just have a new CEO. We are going through a restructure. There's a lot of ambiguity in other departments' work. In other words, if my objective is to insert data science techniques and analytic techniques into core activities at CR, well, I've got to know what those core activities coming down the pike are. So if people haven't done their stuff, I'm kind of struggling, how I can identify mine. So it's a challenge right now. There's a lot of shades of gray and a lot of ambiguity, a lot of movement. What may be true this week may not be true 2 months down the line. And shifting goals and pivoting is problematic. Although we do work in an agile frame. So that's my problem. That's where I am right now.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Angeline, what about you?
Yep. So yes, much of I resonate with what Jody has mentioned, and yes, there is a change happening. It's quite dynamic, and currently in my role, in my team, and ways of working. So then there are changes happening in the background. So again, how does this align for me, and how does this work? How do I work from reaching here to there, as mentioned here as well. So uh, essentially I want to understand how do I work through change, and then how does it align with my personal goals, and how can I uh, uh, direct myself towards that way, and what is it that I really want to achieve as well, so through the change.
So, my any ladies? Sangeeta, and I didn't quite catch, was it Amy?
Mary.
Mary.
Sorry about that. So I think, to me, and I'll keep it really short, professional goal setting has been really easy in a way because there is a shared vision. There are, the expectation is set, and then you're divvying it up and working towards that. I think where I struggle a bit, to be honest, recently is Jessica, is the personal goal setting, right? Because it wasn't like this before, but now, I find it clashing more and more with, I know this is a little bit off topic, but I find it clashing more and more with my professional goals. And eventually one or the other end up taking a priority, and it's always mostly the professional goals, right? And I'm trying to find that balance, but I would say it's still like more of a 20/80 at this point. So something I need to work on, and hopefully I can get some tips from the wonderful ladies here on that.
I would, so I'm going to say I agree. Like I think it's very weighted to work, right? Sadly, right? I think I define myself a lot by my job and by my work, right? Whether that's goal setting or not, I'm going to come out and say it. I think, and I'm of the generation where, Shoshi, right? Like, I don't mean to just call on you, but or point to you, but I think we're of the generation where we were the first women that started to find our way up, and in a more common way than perhaps the generation before us. So I will say that. I will also say, from a professional standpoint, not that I can't set a goal, but I can set a goal and then can't achieve it, right? And I find not being dictated by the goals of the business, but by my own line that I want to get across, right? So that's professional. On a personal level, sadly, I don't know that I set goals there. Beyond, there's certain things I want to do, like write a blog, whatever, but I don't do personal goals. So I don't know. That's just me.
Well, I mean, when you say you define yourself with work, I think that makes sense, right? You're gonna go a lot of this is gonna go with your mindset, which is like a whole. You're right, even bigger conversation. But yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. Soshi, what about you?
So for me, the professional and personal is now completely one big thing, because I'm developing a business, right? My own business. And it's really, Mary, when you say that you identify as the work, right? For me, it's right now, this is who I am. I'm a coach. I'm developing my coaching business, and it all comes together, and it makes it very hard for me to meet my goals. As much as maybe it doesn't sound that it makes sense, because I have so many, and I tend to take too much on myself, personal and professional, and then it all suffers because I think I lack the focus. You know, maybe I don't want to admit it, but I admit it here in this to this group. I start to work on something, I get very excited, I'm doing it, and then other things suffer, right? And where is the big plan? I kind of tend to lose the overall plan.
Awesome. Awesome. So we can find ways if I do or don't, let's find ways we'll make sure to talk about kind of each of these as we go through the different layers, right, of goals. So, but let's first, reflect back. Why do we tend to fall short of our goals? I mean, we talked a little bit about some of it, but what's the big hiccups that we hit? We've heard a little bit about balance.
Disruptors. I mean, things just interrupt. Things change. AI was a big disruptor. Developing the strategy. Well, all of a sudden, everybody wants AI. I'm sorry, my dog is barking. But disruptors, to me, things change. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
But does that change? So Jody, when there's a disruptor, does that move the goal, or does that simply mean that you didn't achieve your goal?
No, I think that the goals. See, here's the problem with goals. I love goals. I'm very goal oriented. I like to plan where I'm going to be. I do that both personally and professionally. But the challenge is when something comes in that is out of the blue, that you have absolutely no touchstone. I mean, a true disruptor. You have to pivot. So I don't consider that not achieving your goal. You need to revise your goal or something to your goal, or maybe just drop the goal and get a new goal. Change direction. So those are the questions that I have in my crazy line. We planned a 3-year strategy, Mary. We planned a 3-year strategy, and then a year and a half into it, a new CEO comes in and changes everything. That's exactly what I'm going through right now. I mean, we've lost a CFO. We've lost three people, 3 senior leaders in the past week, past 10 days. I'm exaggerating. Past 10 days. It wasn't that quick. And now everything has changed. Yeah, including product and marketing.
So we got to figure out why. So strategy doesn't matter at your point, Jody. We got to figure out why why leadership level is not sticking around.
Yeah.
We got to do an assessment and do some, but so, again, lots of great honesty, we'll say, about why things, and is it always going to be perfect? No, right? What's the saying? God laughs while you're making plans, or something about, right? We definitely need to take the action of planning, but a lot of it comes with the execution being agile, and the right amount of agile for your organization and industry. Sochi, Angeli, what are your big hiccups when it comes to falling short?
So I would say that my distraction is myself. Like, how do I, as I said before, I start to work on something. How do I get to the point that I really go through all of it and not start something new? I always want to start another thing and another thing. So I would say that my goals are changing constantly without any plan.
So what we call that, and Jody, this is what your disruptors are. We call this shiny object effect.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We're on
exactly.
we're on the road and the highway going down to, oh, what's that? The biggest roller skate. Let's go stop there. Oh, hey, what's this over here? Oh, we gotta have that. The competitor has that. So it's shiny object. So that's kind of something that we use as a term to say we need to learn to stay the course. There is a level of adapting there is a level of scenario planning. So Jody, that's something outside, scenario planning, right? When we do our strategic planning, we don't want to think, when we do our goal planning, we don't want to think that the future is going to be exactly like the past, right? COVID is a perfect example. Do you know how many strategic plans had to completely change because they didn't even consider the concept of some global impacting event? So there are certain things that we can do when we do planning to help give us the best case scenario, to plan big and long enough that it isn't a goal that you change every 2 months, because it's a big goal. How you get there may change, but the goal doesn't change, right? And that's where your long-term to short-term goals come in. You might have a 4-year goal, but what's your 1-year goal to get to your 4-year? You've got a 1-year goal, but what's your quarterly goal to get to your 1-year goal? And that kind of thing. So a lot of these things we didn't hear, right? We don't actually set metrics, especially in things like our personal lives. We know we've got KPIs that our job gives us that we have to get done, but we don't always actually make that plan, that trajectory. What do I got to get done quarterly to get to that year? What do I got to get done monthly to get to quarterly? What do I got to get done weekly to get to monthly, or daily to get to weekly? Thinking about that time scale. Setting the right number of goals, right? We set 10 goals in 3 different sections of our lives and then get mad at ourselves for not achieving it. Soshi, this might not be your year of growth in your personal life and realm. You're wanting to start a business. That means when we set our 100% of goals, personal, professional, organizational is for the organization. So that's more of a work goal. But it needs to represent the spread that you expect for the year. And that's okay. If it's 80-20, then that's okay. As long as that's the plan, that's the trajectory, but don't get mad at yourself for setting too many. Maybe it's okay to set many, figure out your time scale, right? Okay, here's the 20 things I want to achieve. This one's going to have to be in 5 years. This one's going to have to be in 3 years. Now, where do I got to get to the next year? Sorry, somebody asked something. No?
No.
Okay. Identifying actionable or observable things, right? We set that high level goal, which is beautiful, but we don't necessarily have those metrics to measure it so we can actually see, well, I want to be happier. Well, what does that look like? Sangeeta or Mary?
Yeah, that was really very realistic and grounding, right, Jessica, what you mentioned. And I think sometimes professionally, and Mary can say if I'm right or wrong, the goal, whether it's achievable or not achievable, becomes irrelevant, and you start pouring your life into making it work, right? Making it achievable. I think at work, it happens mostly because the goals are usually drizzled down, right? You inherit your goals, and then your whole life's purpose, as Mary mentioned, right, becomes achieving that goal. And you lose a sense of who you really are, and you become the goal, right? And that's how it's felt for me for the past few years. I think I don't want to hijack the call, but I initially mentioned on my personal side, right? I used to set goals. Okay, this is my academic goal. This year, I'm going to get this certificate. This year, I'm going to do this course, right? And I was able to achieve it. But at this point, I think about it, but I really have no energy to go and pursue it, right? Because who I am is the goal I committed at work, right? And I think that's also something that's very negative. We see the cycle happening, but we don't know how to stop the cycle,
So this is gonna sound silly, but first of all, stop saying that. Stop saying that. Stop saying I am my work. That alone, putting that out there makes a big difference. It sounds like you're kind of the opposite of Soshi, where we know you just mentioned when you put your mind to something, you achieve it. You've made huge strides in your work. Let's look at the whole life and see what's missing that you want more of. What of those domains in your life that you want more of? And maybe this year we're gonna increase our focus and make ourselves. We're no longer gonna define ourselves by work, because the more you say that, the more it's true, right? I am what I say I am. That's a little M&M in there. But it's true, right? So I strongly suggest using your words wisely and saying, right now, I tend to let work be the dominant focus. And that gives you power. I tend to let work be the dominant focus.
That's extremely insightful, Jessica. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The thought and then the vocalization of that thought can have a profound impact on how you react, right? Or how you act, basically. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Jessica. We will definitely try.
So your homework is to make a new statement about what you want your whole self to look like.
Okay.
Angeli?
Um, yeah, just adding on to what Sangeeta has shared, and and what you have mentioned as well. So, day in and day out, we are working with the organization, we are working with the business, we are trying to achieve the business goals. Then, how do you slowly and you sometimes fall off the track with regards to your personal goals. So then, how do you weekly, setting up weekly, monthly understanding or drawing a journey for yourself, saying that, okay, weekly, this is what I've done work wise, and this is how it connects the dots to my personal goal. So, how do we actually, go about that kind of mapping or, connecting the dots? How do we go about that? Because it's very easy to get lost in terms of achieving with things within the organization and things towards the business. So, but how do you connect the dots?
So let me ask you, how do organizations get hundreds or thousands of people working together in the same direction on the same timeline?
Essentially finding out what inspires each and every colleague, I guess.
So tracking systems, right? And accountability is one of those systems, right?
Yeah.
So sharing goals with others, setting up, if we have a gym partner, right? Oh, we make our New Year's resolution that we're going to go to the gym and, be healthy or whatever. It's very easy to wake up by yourself and go, I'm not going to go today. It'll be okay. It's a lot harder to wake up and be like, well, I got to call Soshi and she's going to give me the what? You already canceled. So letting someone else down has a huger impact, right? Self-discipline, only 5% of the population is extremely self-disciplined. We've grown up in systems that the teacher demanded that you had homework. The organization demanded that
Correct.
you do these things. And so you've really got to put in, I know it sounds silly, the calendar invite or the calendar tracking, the tracking systems. I stop on Friday and reflect on what I accomplished this week. I update my metrics. I look at what's coming up next week so that I'm ready and then I can enjoy my weekend. Setting those systems and including others are really where you start to get that accountability and the habitual process of being able to check in and see, where am I? What do I need to do more of? Wait, I'm lagging behind on this one, etc. Who was up first? So she saw
Women in big data.
Samgita and yeah.
Yeah. So I think you were spot on. And another factor I feel is incentives. When your bonus is tied to the goal, then you want to work towards it, right? That's sometimes, is a driving factor as well. Maybe that's something too. I'll take a break if I achieve this. That's a good way to make sure you achieve the goal.
absolutely reinforcement. Jody?
I was going to say that I think that in an organization, the way to get that kind of collaboration going is to get the enterprise to move as a whole. And the only way I've seen it actually work is when it's very, very top down from the CEO or the president, whatever the corporate structure is, with the high level goals, and then breaking down the strategic goals for each of the divisions, then the tactical goals for each person working in that division for each of the teams. Now, getting an organization to move as a whole and change it in time of change and ambiguity with disruptors becomes very complicated and delayed. And that's my comment. I mean, it's to me, you need, in order to get that collaboration, to really understand, because you may be in one part of the organization, and if you have, an org where there's silos, you're not going to know what's going on, for example, in marketing. You're just not, unless it comes down from top down and everything is, done in an orderly sequence.
And we talk about, and really OKRs is perfect for that, Jody. We should talk sometime, but I like to think of it as the way that we talk about doing it is more of a converging. Absolutely. We have to have leadership set the whole organizational future. That's why they're there. Until our executive team is cohesive, aligned together as a team on what the problems are, where we need to work, what are the urgencies, what are the etc., then it's going to be very hard and disruptive for those divisions to align and keep changing. So that's just, we've got to get that executive team cohesive, first of all. But the way that you described it is absolutely right. Every team, every individual in that organization needs to know how they're contributing up to those big organizational goals. Now, we rather the top team bring in some evidence, right? Do an assessment, gain insights from all the teams, focus groups, then write the goals. And then each team and their leader align to those. So you're not dictated down the goal. You need to look at this organizational goal and say, where does your team contribute and how? And that helps the converging, the empowerment of me being a leader, knowing what my team needs to do, and you not telling me what my team needs to do. You just giving me the guiding light. And with the change, Jody, you're going to only be able to start at 2 layers at a time. So you can't get everyone doing goals like this you could in 1 year, but you do it quarterly, right? Quarterly, the top 2 layers.
Yeah.
Then the next 2, then the next 2, then the next 2. By the end of the year, the whole organization is now starting to run a habitual process of execution and goal setting. But it is hard. And that's how you get the alignment, though, that we're talking about. So we talked about accountability. So let's talk about OKRs. What is this concept? Who's heard about OKRs? Anybody tried to use them themselves? The organization's using them? What have we heard?
We do use them, but inconsistently, Jessica.
I don't, so I would argue and say we define OKRs, but we don't measure anything against them. It's
another checkbox.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
It's a pie in the sky. We wrote it, and then the plan sits on the shelf because we were all excited when we wrote it. We were going to go so far. And then we get inundated by the day-to-day, the fires, the put out, the shiny objects, the operational level.
But I think even when we're doing it, I would argue that it's an esoteric exercise versus an exercise rooted in what we're going to do. In other words, there's a fight to define from 5 different angles saying, this is what the OKR is. And then because 5,000 people needed to be part of that definition, nobody really buys into it.
Because it's completely unclear and right. And it sounds like they're only writing them at the top layer.
I think it's in a way, right? You talked about that convergence. I think that convergence sometimes feels like you have to adhere to it, right? You have to make somebody else's vision come true. So you're going to commit to everything there is, right? So it doesn't mean that there is alignment. You're committing to it because that's a goal.
Because that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah.
Okay. And that's where we really don't have engagement. We have compliance.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
And that's the opposite problem that I have right now. And what you said before really resonated with me. It feels lonely. There is no one else, right? And even when I was in senior positions, it sometimes felt lonely. Yes, you always have the higher management that gives you the overall goals, but how do you make it something that is a broader group that can help you with achieving these goals? So what you said before, share it with others, it felt very, very true for my situation right now, as an example.
Absolutely. And in an organization, as a leader of a team, so who here is an actual leader has direct reports? Anybody? Okay.
No finger pointing. it's pretty much, I think, all of us. Anjali has direct reports.
So nobody just
Jody
wants to volunteer that information.
Jody
as
has
a
many,
leader-
many.
Volunteer her.
Your whole role, right, is a mediating effect, right? You get information from the top, you try to get results from the bottom, you're telling the top about what's going on, blah, blah, So leaders play a different role, right? So the leader is going to go up to their leader's team and they're going to plan this level. Say it's either the executive team or the departmental team, whichever one of those 2 layers. You're going to plan with your right? Because as a CEO, you're all the leaders, all the VPs report. So that is, first of all, cross collaborating right there, right? We're talking about what marketing is going to do, what sales is going to do, what product is going to do, what customer support is going to do, all to achieve these financial, operational, customer, and employee goals. Then those leaders agree because they know what's going on in each of their teams. So you got to get that agreement. Then those leaders go to their teams and have the same kind of meeting, but with their team members, which may also be leaders of other teams. So if you're doing this kind of trickle down alignment effect, the other thing you need to do is the backward step. So after I go meet with my team and I come and write OKRs with them, I go back to my executive team and my equal level colleagues and leader, and we all say what our teams all wrote. And we see if there's alignment. And we gain alignment until when we don't leave the room until we gain alignment. And then now your OKRs are finalized. But it's the leader's job to go to talk to those other team members and say, hey, marketing, I'm sales. What are your OKRs? Because your OKRs, marketing, you highly impact my OKRs, etc. But OKRs came from, we had originally trying to measure individual performance, right? The Hawthorne studies, etc., all the way up to trying to measure them in organizations. Basically, you have an objective. Your objective is two pieces. I like to call it the what and the why. What do you want to accomplish? What are you going to spend your time, energy, and resources on? Usually this is one or two things: training and learning, engagement and retention, advancing emotional, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. And then the inspirational part. Why is it important? Well, we want to implement AI and machine learning to improve our customers' experience. Why? Customers' experience. Right? So you kind of have this do what to accomplish why. Right? So I want to work on employee programs and equal compensation to ensure employee engagement and retention. If you have those concepts in your objective statement and the right wording, and what I mean by right wording is clear wording towards what you truly want to accomplish, your metrics should scream out in that statement, right? Outcomes of what to measure success by. It needs to be a number. You can measure days, you can measure time, you can measure money, you can measure events, you can measure attendees. But you want something you can track over time. So every Friday you can look and say, did I move the mark? If I'm working on a quarterly basis and I want to accomplish something once a week, what is my number and metric going to be? How many weeks in a quarter? Let's say 4 per month. So 12 weeks of logging my results. And so every Friday I log in and I add a 1 to that. By the end of the month 2 of the quarter, I've only got 4 points, clearly not doing something I committed to. So key results, you want to be aspirational. You do want to shoot a little bit higher than what you know you can achieve, right? OKRs are meant to be inspirational and aspirational. And focus as far down on outcomes as possible, right? Let's use a marketing example. I'm going to produce 100 blogs this quarter. Boom, at the end of the quarter, 100 blogs. Does that really matter if not a single person goes and reads any of the blogs? Did I really accomplish my goal or my objective? Why do we create blogs?
Yeah, you want to manage your engagement.
Bring in new people.
Yeah.
Put out our thought leadership, get new visitors in. So if I make 100 blogs and I don't get a single new visitor on any one of them, I did not accomplish my goal, my objective. Therefore, make sure what you're measuring is truly measuring what matters. So we could say, I'm not going to produce 100 blogs. I'm going to produce 20 blogs that reach 100 new unique users or new unique visitors. And so I could make 100 blogs, but I only get to check that mark if I get 100 views or 100 new visitors. So you can add a threshold to the metric to make it more meaningful. But the point being, we want to measure the outcome, the final thing that we can, especially in an organization. Your organization is going to be your biggest outcome. As you trickle down to those departments and individual contributor, you will get to more outputs where you're just counting how many blogs and things. But the blogs are meant to bring in this many new unique visitors, which we know converts to this many new clients, which converts to this much new sales, blah, 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 blah. And real quickly, this is why we shoot for higher. If you were to shoot for your easiest outcome, we call it the baseline outcome, you will probably achieve it. If you shoot for a really aspirational, the greatest possible outcome for the quarter, you might not achieve it, but you will achieve much higher than your baseline. Because the truth is, you never fail to achieve a goal unless you stop working for it. You may fail to perfectly scope the time it would take you to accomplish the goal. You might set a 4-year goal and it took you 5 years to accomplish it. So keep in that aspirational mentality, because we know in the example of Google, which was one of the companies that made OKRs very popularized, they wanted to build the next generation client platform for to be the future of web applications, build the best browser. Their first year, they set up, their key result was plain and simple, number of users. They wanted 20 million, they only got 10 million. Instead of shying away, the next year, they more than doubled their target. And therefore more than doubled their result. They still didn't reach their goal though. And finally, the third year, they doubled their goal, their target again, and this time surpassed it. So don't let not achieving it the first year slow you down and say, oh, well, maybe I should just shoot for 30 million next year, right? The higher you shoot, the more aspirational. So how do these apply to our personal lives? Well, you can consider your family, your health, your friends, your finances, having more fun, relationship, your community time. Having a personal domain matters. You have gifts for that domain as well. So an example is to enhance the amount of time and effort, the 2 things I'm going to do. Why? To spend more time with family and friends. So my key results, and again, we're thinking in a quarter, we're thinking in a 3-month time span. Working back from a year. I'm going to have 6 events with friends. So I'm going to do 2 things a month with friends. I'm going to have 3 family dinners. So at least once a month, I'm going to go home and have dinner with the parents and the siblings and the cousins and etc. And I'm going to make 12 calls to family and friends. So once a week on Sunday, I'm going to call somebody I haven't called and talk to them and catch up. I can easily track these in a tally form, in an Excel document. You can do it electronically. You can do it on a piece of paper visibly right in front of you. I actually have some visible things in front of me to pay attention to that are more top of mind. So you can track these in all sorts of ways. So obviously we're close on time, but you've been given a document with 3 sections. This is where you would think, what do I want to accomplish? More time and effort. And why? To spend more time with family and friends. How would I measure that? If I were to do all the things I needed to do, what would I see? Now, what I'm really missing is a survey to all my family and friends that talk about my increased engagement, but we didn't go that far. So how does this apply to your professional? When we think of professional, we think of you. So it may be a new job or a role, maybe a new business, maybe you're just moving to a new company, or adapting new skills, or leading a new team, a new level, or getting more team engagement yourself. What do I want to do? My objective is to expand my knowledge and training. What am I going to do to become a better leader for my team? It seems so simple, but the clarity there, if Soshi were to come in and read my objective, yes, she might have some detailed questions, but she'd get the gist. Jessica is going to spend time expanding her knowledge and specifically training, right? To, and why, become a better leader for her team. And having that inspirational level of becoming a better leader for my team keeps me inspired. Why am I even doing this? Oh, I'm just doing training for training. No, I'm doing it to be a better leader for my team. So I'm going to take one training per month over the quarter. I'm going to have 6 meetings with mentors. So I'm going to talk to leaders above me and ask them how they do certain things that maybe I'm struggling with or want to get better at. And I'm going to do one survey with my team and colleagues, 360, and ask, how am I doing? Give me some feedback on where I can improve. So it doesn't have to be extremely difficult. If I get 5 meetings out of 6, it's okay. I'm being aspirational. So again, you'll have your area you can work by quarter to quarter. What's your objective? What's your couple key results? For you in your professional life, the person managing between personal and organization. And then OKRs for your organization. We want you to work as a team and across teams and layers when doing things like OKRs in your team. You want to be clear. That's what the what part of the objective is for. What are you going to spend your time, energy, and resources on? What's the focus? And then the inspiration is the why. Why does it matter? Who cares if we're doing this? What is the outcome? And both of those will give you great metrics, right? I'm working on employee programs and compensation, fairness and compensation to increase engagement and retention. There's 4 key results right there. How many new engagement programs do we have that 100 people have attended or used? What in our survey, we got 85% results in satisfaction with fairness of compensation. What is our engagement and what is our retention? 4 key results. Boom. That's what I need to measure if that's what my statement is. And the execution. So if we're working on a long-term timeline, we have 4 years. 4 years gets us the 1 year at the organizational level. Now our departments or divisions align, and then teams align to departments. Jody, you said it perfectly, right? We need to have that alignment where everyone is not only rowing at the same speed, but rowing in the same direction and owning what I call their piece of the pie, right? Leaders will be like, I can't do this all myself. You're a leader at this level. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to make sure that all the teams below you are focused, clear, have the resources they need to help move them forward. So I know we're getting close to time. We do have a little quick organizational survey for you just to think about. 1 is alignment and 1 is accountability. They're the 2 key components that really help lead to organizational change towards strategic execution. So right now, raise your hand if you would say that in the alignment one, every team is aligned on a quarterly plan. Every team in your organization has localized objectives They know the metrics and they're focusing on it quarterly. What about teams biannually have a plan? And what about executives at the top level are the ones that are aligned on the annual plan? None of them? It's all the
Well,
bottom.
I was going to say, I think that the executives on the top are aligned, and we're still, I would say, in my work, we're still working through to get everyone, again, going in the same direction.
So probably in the red category. No. Sangeeta? Yeah, Mary?
Go for it.
You go.
I think like Mary mentioned, right, we do this exercise sporadically, Jessica. It's not consistent across, I would say. But one thing where I have seen really good success, I know we only have 2 minutes, and where personal and professional goals were merged is in one of my previous roles. The commitment was to learn, keep improving at your skills. And the way when we committed to that, my immediate manager would commit, then I give you 4 hours every week. I give you 1 day every month to work towards your goal. All right. So it was like an equal thing. It was not a one-sided commitment. And he did make sure that he executed that commitment, right? His goal was, I will give my team 4 hours every week. I will give my team X number of days every month, right? And he did that, which in turn, it was like a cycle, right? When a person is giving you an incentive, giving you an opportunity to achieve a goal, then you are more motivated to achieve a goal. It's sort of a reverse cycle. The incentive was given upfront.
Yes, absolutely.
What I've seen in the past, Jessica, is that on sales, that's usually when companies that are very rigid on the way, or very kind of disciplined, right, on the way that they're measuring sales. That's where I saw the alignment and accountability. And someone mentioned, I can't remember who it was, when you tie into that bonuses and incentives, then it works better than when you're not.
Well, and I think what I heard was not just preaching to the choir, but actually setting up the systems that walked the walk. I'm not telling you, Soshi, make sure you get 4 hours a month in of training and leadership training while cobbling you with work, right? I'm saying get 4 hours of leadership training, and here's a day that you can always use for that, because I'm that serious about you getting that. And that's the alignment between, again, the organizational goals and a leader's goals. Sometimes leaders are more effective and more focused on that. We want the organization preaching that to everyone so that all leaders do that. It is hard, but what we think is, if you do strategic execution and management more effectively, you actually aren't having as many meetings. You're having more effective meetings, right? We're not getting into a meeting and saying, well, Anjali, where are you on your project? And she goes, well, I'm here, and then I did this, and then I went there, and that last month, and then this is where I'm, and Mary and Sangeeta are going, this is a time waste for me. I'm not in this project, but I need to know about it. But so when we start to track metrics organizationally, we can use those as the focus. I don't care where you're spending your time unless something that's important is behind. Then we all need to problem solve and work forward. So let's pop the metrics up in the meeting. What's green? Awesome job, celebrate. What's red? Who needs help? Who needs what? What do you need from us? Let's get this back moving. Yellow, also, what do you need from us? Let's get this moving. All right, back to work, back to action, back to focus. So some of the systems we set up for execution need to be agile, but still consistent.
Right. Jessica, we're over time. We really want to thank you. This was a very insightful discussion. It doesn't matter how many times I hear it. There's always a light bulb that comes on again and again. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. Jessica, thank you for your time. I know how valuable it is, and you choose to share it with us today. We really appreciate it.
Great.
Absolutely. Great
insights. Thank
conversation.
you.
Good, sorry, Mary.
Thank you, Jessica, for your time. It was a great session.
Absolutely. Thank you for attending, ladies. Feel free to reach out and connect with me if you have any more questions. And I look forward to supporting women in big data whenever needed.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Thanks, Soshi. Cheers
Thank
all.
you, Sushi.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.